So if you're still using Ada is a girl, she lives in Lagos, she's fair in complexion user persona templates, we are dropping it in 2025. Hello, my name is Tochys, and this is my POV on user persona templates. In this video, I'll show you how to create the best user persona template with a guided template. Now you'll be able to download this template free of charge. I'll also be giving you pro tips to curating this template and how it would give you insight, give you more perspective into what you're building, why you're building it the way you're building it, who you are building it for, how you would sell it to them, and how you will successfully convince them to make a buying decision. Now, most people do not know that a good user persona template can give you this much benefits. Again, not your regular user persona template. Now, first things first. What are user persona templates? To better understand a persona template, right? Think about it this way. It's the result of a well-done market research. Market research builds the house and user personas decorate and furnish it so that everyone knows how to live in it. Now, a great market research involves a lot of things. It's a lot of data gathering, right? It's you're gathering data on customer behavior, customer needs, market trends, demographics, competitor analysis, psychographics, pain points, cohort analysis, goals, values, motivation, a lot. Now, this research is foundational because it gives you real insights into what your market actually looks like. It helps you to decenter yourself and understand that you're not building a product for yourself, you're building it for a market. User personas are the output of a good market research, and they determine what you are building, how you are building it, how you will sell it, and who will buy it. User persona templates, they're not the basis, but they are like a synthesis tool, a practical way to make market research actionable across multiple departments. Hence the reason why you need to understand that it's not something that only marketers use. It's not something that is only valuable to marketers. It's valuable to everyone. So now you understand why a typical name, age, city, persona template is too shallow, right? So everybody has that. Everybody knows that there are 500 Adas that are living in Lagos, but that is overgeneralized and you need nuance, right? This lacks, daily habits, motivations, triggers, and why they should even buy your product. And so you see people struggling before they take months or even years to understand their customers and meet them where they are at. Now, the template that I'm about to show you covers everything from profile to touch point to product fit to psychoanalysis to deep motivation, cohort and cultural context and bonuses, all sorts of things. I have taken my time to put together over 9 years of work experience in this. It's about ×6 better than the value that you would get from a typical generic user persona template. Let's get into pro tip 1 before we start looking at that template. For pro tip 1, before we get into it, you need to be willing to do deep research. Be willing to ask questions, even the most obvious questions, because that's how you would actually understand these people. You'll be surprised at how much insights you would get about the person that you're targeting or the people that you're targeting by the time we are done working through this user persona template. Now let's go ahead and let us break it down. This is what my user persona template looks like. Please listen and don't judge. It's very in-depth. I'm not a market researcher. However, as a marketing person, you need to fully understand the people that you're trying to target. And this has been my go-to template for a couple of years, and it's done an amazing job. So let us get to it now. First things first, we're going to be dissecting the profile information. This is the part that a lot of you are already used to, and you typically use for, your typical user persona template just has like the profile information section, but we're doing way more than that, right? So it's just actually the first section. So let's start with it. For the full name, you can put any name there, however you want to tag your person. We're using Tenny. Tenny is between 50 to 60 years old. She's female, of course. She's married, right? And then we go down to household size. So let's say Tenny has a husband and she has how many children now? We're going to put 4 kids. That's like a perfect number, right? She has 4 kids, has her kids school abroad. So we're assuming that Tenny is, a big woman, a C-suite executive. Out of the 4 children, because she's in her 50s, 60s, we're assuming she has children who are at least in their mid-20s. So one is married with 2 kids. She's disturbing the others to marry to give her grandkids. For educational state level, well, she has an MBA. Apart from her, micro certifications here and there in business schools. She's of course C-suits, as I've said earlier. Let's assume that Tenny works in the I wanted to do health, but let me do something that everyone is typically used to. So let's assume that Tenny is a CTO. She's a chief technology officer. And let's assume that she works full-time hybrid. Full-time. Yeah. And so for earning potential, we're going to say that she earns about 8 million naira per month. I mean, she's a 6-seat executive, so she should be able to earn this much. And this is, her monthly income. And her primary languages are English, Pidgin, and Yoruba. Assuming that she grew up in Nigeria and she knows these 3 basic languages. For geographical location, would use Lagos. That's a very general place. So say she lives in Ikoyi in Lagos. And of course Ikoyi is in the urban part of Lagos. It's not in the backyard of Lagos. Okay, so her company is at Ikeja, so she goes from Ikoyi to Ikeja on the days that she has to work, at the office. And Tennis, a Christian, or she could be a Muslim or an atheist or whatever. So depending on the type of product that you want, you now, decide how to tailor that. Now for daily routines and communications, the aim of this section is for you to understand Tenny to a granular level. You're trying to understand what she does from the moment she wakes up from sleep, right? You're trying to understand. Now, understanding that gives you an insight into her communication touch points, and also into like her mood at different times of the day. There are times when she feels like, speaking pidgin. There are times when she feels like speaking proper, prim and proper English, right? So you're trying to understand what she does from the moment she wakes up. So let's assume that she wakes up by 6 a.m. And she typically does her prayers for say 30 minutes, and then by 6:30 she probably maybe she goes for a walk, or let's readjust the wake up time. We're in Lagos and she's going from Ikoyi to, but yeah, she's a C-suite executive. She can afford to wake up by 6. She can get to work even by 9:30, and that's fine. So she does her prayers for 30 minutes. She does her workouts, either by watching all of those really fun videos on YouTube from the 80s, or she takes a walk around her estate where she lives. It's super safe, so it's fine going out by that time, right? So these are one of two ways that she ensures that, she keeps things active, because I mean, arthritis and so forth, right? Blood pressure, all of those types of things. And so where would she typically take those online workouts? That would most likely be on YouTube, right? So we have now figured out a communication channel that Tenny would most likely engage with, and we now have an idea of the time range that she would do that. So typically between 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. she would be on those types of pages. Her work type, let's say, is hybrid, so she probably does like 3 days on, 2 days off, all of that. Getting ready for work, she gets ready in a rush. Everybody gets ready in a rush in Nigeria, in Lagos specifically. She doesn't really have time for her phone, so she rushes in after her exercise, and she just goes in and she takes her bath. She doesn't listen to the news or anything, even on days that she's home. I mean, she wants to spend some extra time in bed. She doesn't want to listen to the news in the morning by that time. She's gotten too old for that. She's been there and done that. On her way to work, she has a driver, right? So she will most likely be on her phone. She will be responding to WhatsApp messages. She would be returning calls. Or if she wants to have a quiet morning, she wants to catch up with what's happening. So she'll be listening to the radio, right? So these are the two touch points that Tenny would typically have on a morning, let's say Monday morning, that she has to drive from Ikoyi to Ikeja, right? So now we have better understood the communication channels that Tenny would have access to around this time. And of course it would be anytime between like 8 a.m. to say 9:30 a.m. depending on traffic situation. So yeah, the radio between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. WhatsApp also between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Okay, let's go. What next? What next? What next? What can we think of here? Who will she most likely be speaking to at this point? She's speaking to her kids. She's speaking to family, maybe her aged mom, or she's speaking to a sibling that called her. She's speaking to an old schoolmate that probably dropped a message yesterday for her. um you know those are the types of people that she would be speaking to around this time. She could be speaking to her husband, especially if he's not around, and he wants to check up on her, make sure she had a great night and she's good and she's on her way to work, and all of that. So from there, during that commute, we have figured out that she would engage with the radio, she would engage with WhatsApp, maybe Facebook. And now you're asking yourself, are these worth me advertising on around these times of the day if I'm targeting a Tenny, right? So possible communication activity while commuting. Um, they would be informal, because I mean this is not a very official thing. So the chances that she could be reviewing a document for a meeting she will jump into once she gets to work is high. However, um uh, of course that doesn't happen all the time. She's not in a rush. She does not want to rush into the office and start a meeting right away. She typically want her meetings from say 10:30, right? But the chances of her being on WhatsApp is higher. So she would most likely be answering these calls or replying to these messages across these communication channels. Now, arrival at work is between 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Depending on traffic situation and when she got out from the house on that day. Softwares that she uses and tools that she could use. So you're thinking around the office approved softwares, right? So if it's as a CTO, if she was a younger person, maybe a senior PM, you would say that the person could use or a developer, for example, would use GitHub, right? So for her, she's using her MacBook, she's using Microsoft, she's using her Google, she's using probably Slack if that's the official communication channel. Okay. The reason you're trying to know this is, so outside of social media, what other places, especially if you're a B2B brand, what other places can you catch Tenny when she's in work mode and looking for ways to be productive? Okay. So as a CTO, let's assume that Tenny is really She's that girl. She learns a lot. She's always on top of her game. So yeah, she still goes to GitHub as CTO, because at some point she was probably a software engineer, right? And all of those, developer softwares needed for work. So she's reviewing codes once in a while. As a CTO, of course, she's not the one that is constantly doing this, but sometimes she has to go look at these things, right? So sometimes you're going to find her in that type of place. She is looking through her emails in the morning so she can set up meetings, so she can set people right, so she can look through tasks that she gave to people, right? So if you send an email to Tenny between, say, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., the chances that your open rate would increase is high. Right? So yeah. Break time, she most likely, orders in. She probably has a PA that does that for her, an executive assistant that does that for her. Or if she just needs to meet up a few friends at maybe a brunch place here at Ikoyi, then she's going to do that, right? And she would reply to messages, but not everybody's messages, because everybody knows that Tenny works, right? So she's only going to prioritize the most important. So people who are reaching out to her informally for official conversations, right? So she will most likely not get on those arthritis group chats on Facebook, because she's still in work mode. She's still thinking about work at this time. So a pigeon ad will not work at this time. So communication channels during break time will most likely be email, again, Slack, WhatsApp. So if you send an email campaign at this time to Tenny, you most likely get her. Close of work time 6 to 8 p.m. depending on the load of work she has and the meetings that she has after hours. Her commute home, of course, the driver is still driving her home. She might stop at a restaurant. Her kids are not around, right? Her husband is either around or not, but at this age they are not killing themselves with going into the kitchen. So if she does not have a cook who lives in with her, she will most likely stop at a restaurant to either eat in or to take dinner home to share with her partner. She will most likely take off her shoes, relax, enjoy the ride home. Whether there is traffic or not, to consign am like that. So now she's in informal mode, right? So mode of communication at this time is most likely WhatsApp groups, all of those old girls school groups, all of those Facebook groups, Facebook medical groups, because don't forget, they've told her she has high blood pressure and that her knees are paining her because of arthritis, right? And this is the time to really just relax and think outside of work about her personal life. Okay, so arrival time home is between 8 to 9 p.m. And then post-work activities, she could get on the phone with family just like in the morning, but this time a little bit more relaxed, right? So if she's speaking to friends, it's most likely her closest friends. She's scrolling through social media. She probably has this very weird looking display picture on Instagram, so she's a bit informal. So you're doing like jingles that bring back memories, nostalgia, you're speaking pidgin and all of that. You will get Tenny now because she's in an informal mood. She needs things that will release that dopamine to make her relax and to sleep. Okay. And so her communication touch point at this point is TV. She's watched news between 9 to 11 p.m. all her life. She's going to continue it, right? WhatsApp, Facebook, or other relevant social media channels where she can, unwind, and be able to go to bed on time. 3 hours after that, will Tenny still be awake? The chances are no, because she'll probably go to bed before 11 p.m. knowing that there is work the next day to be done, right? So the types of posts that would typically resonate with Tenny is religion. And with the next template I would be releasing, you would understand why religion would resonate with Tenny at this time. Health platforms, religious platforms, school platforms, right? As I said, she'll sleep between 10 to 11 p.m. On weekends, Tenny is that babe, okay? She just does her lazy thing, right? She doesn't want to wake up by 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. She wants to wake up by 8 a.m. She wants to stay in bed because, of course, there's a cleaner who comes in to clean the house, on Saturday morning. She spends time with her husband if he's around, or she just scrolls, through WhatsApp communities, her old school, of course, platform again on WhatsApp. She calls her friends, she calls her kids, she scrolls through Facebook and WhatsApp and sends her kids that tea and mango taken together can kill them. She engages in important but informal discussions, so things that she's been putting away all week, now she has time to engage in them. So just here and there with every informal person that she knows, everyone that she knows informally rather. So sometime later on in the afternoon, say between 12 and 2, she could go for brunch with the girls, maybe go to Ikoyi Club or the Smiths. On Sundays she goes to church. She definitely doesn't go to the market because, again, she's rich enough to afford help, right? She probably exercises, but I mean, if she's been doing 3 days to 4 days of walking every day, she might not necessarily exercise. However, others would argue that, on a typical Saturday morning by like 8 a.m., she could go to the gym. Right. So if you, for example, drop a flyer in the gym or do a campaign in the gym targeting Tenny by 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, there are chances that you could get some traction from that. So she probably shops on WhatsApp with her long-term customers. All the allojas in the Lagos Island market that she's known for years, right? So she shops with them. She doesn't just randomly, hit up a person on Instagram to shop with. No. She believes in word of mouth marketing. You have to come highly recommended for her to take the risk of patronizing you without knowing you. Okay. Now to frustrations and product fits. What frustrates them in daily life that your product or service can fix? This is where you are able to say, okay, this is why Tenny is my target market. This is what she does on a daily basis, on the weekends or whatever, that my product would help her to do better, or what she craves that, I could leverage, right? So you're looking at the type of language that they would be speaking at the time that you publish that ad or that post. Now you've understood the communication touch points. You've understood her mood. You've understood the types of languages she would most likely be speaking. You know where to get her at what time, right? So you're now considering creating campaigns targeted at maybe her children, right? If you feel like this is not, because mind you, she also believes in word of mouth marketing. So have you considered that, or while targeting Tenny, you could target her husband or her kids, right? Who are more digital, especially if you're not interested in investing in offline marketing. So obstacles that they could face to achieve these goals. You're supposed to hit their emotions with this. So Tenny is from a generation that people are gradually forgetting what pushes nostalgia for them. So whatever can hit their emotions is where you're supposed to come from. So trying to recreate ads, trying to use music that she knew when she was growing up, that is great. That is a great idea to get Tenny to do something for you. Now, under psychoanalysis, you're trying to understand what motivates Tenny. You're trying to get into her head. You're trying to hit those, emotional touch points, right? That would make her react. It could be nostalgia. It could be religion. It could be, all of those types of things. So what could be her typical dreams and aspirations aside from being a grandmother? So, if she has tackled, this issue, would she be happy? Right? Would she be fulfilled? If she wants grandchildren, the feeling of imagining grandchildren will make her feel fulfilled. Would she be happy if there was someone that could come help to do her arthritis massages at home? Right? Would she be excited if she had a great pop-up an oldies pop-up that was only for people who were 50 to 70, right? That would make her excited. That would make her giddy. Okay, so you're trying to understand how your product fixing and what solving for her would make her feel. And now that is the emotion you want to create when you're creating your content for Tenny. Now, what are her desires and wants? What will she do better after using your product beyond immediate gratification? Okay, so how should she feel after? And that is how you should close out on your content. So you see, when they talk about, retirement plans, and you close out with an old man who is smiling satisfactorily, they need to understand how they feel at the moment and how they feel right after using your product. Okay, and what are their core needs? What you're providing them? Is it an essential need? Or is it a need out of how do they say it? Out of vanity. Okay, so is it essential? Is it non-negotiable? Is it something that she needs to understand that, listen, if you don't have this thing, life cannot be complete? Okay, now let's even assume that it is vanity. You're supposed to paint it in such a way that you create the fear of missing out and increase the value in her eyes. Tenny has a problem with things that are ridiculously cheap and also things that are ridiculously expensive, because she's not a billionaire, to be very honest, right? So you need to be able to strike a balance. Okay, so what keeps Tenny awake at night? Tenny is already praying for the safety of her children, her husband. She's hoping that she will live to at least, 80 or 90. How are you enabling that? What level of peace of mind and happiness are you ensuring that she has when she patronizes you? These are the things that will make her want to patronize you. She has passed the point of buying stress with her money. Okay? So what could trigger a conversation for her? It's, again, religion, it's respect. This generation, they don't have respect, right? It's arthritis, it's tea and mango. Okay, so you're thinking about what could make Tenny engage with you. Okay, what would Tenny most likely want to buy from you for? It's convenience. She has not gotten to this point to stress life. So you need to make her understand that you're going to make this as convenient for her as possible. Now, relatable conversations that you could use for storytelling could be grandchildren. It could be marriage. It could be retirement plans. It could be omugo, right? Going to look after the new baby for her kids, right? It could be sitting in a boardroom. And all of those things, right? Things that could lead to her having a more stable life when she retires. These are the types of things that Tenny will relate to between ages 50 to 60. Okay? So, pain points in current situations. Okay, let's do how they self-identify. Tenny is going to self-identify as an oldie who is aging like fine wine. Tenny is good on her Botox. Don't tell her she's an old woman. Tell her, oh my gosh, mommy, you are such a beauty. That's what she wants to hear. Okay? So with the next one, the cohort and cultural context analysis. This will lead into the next template that I will release. But for now, this is a brief overview of Tenny as a cohort. Now, in cohort and cultural context analysis, we are trying to analyze people as a group, right? It could be as a group, a tribal group. It could be as an age group. And you understand the things that they have experienced that trigger emotions positively or negatively for them. What types of conversations do people in this age usually engage in, right? They engage in conversations about now getting old, not being as young as they used to be, high blood pressure, sorry about that, retirement, cancer, arthritis, being in board of directors, all of those types of things. Those are the types of conversations that they have now. Coming up as mentors for the younger girls. All of those types of things are the things that Tenny would typically discuss with, her friends, with her kids, with her partner. Now, What are notable generational events that shaped their thinking? For Tenny, who is between 50 and 60, she must have known someone who knew someone who lost someone during COVID, right? So COVID and anything about pandemic is very scary for her, because if it happens now that she's older, she is worried about what a typical lockdown would do to her. Let's even assume she was in her late 40s at the time COVID happened. Now she's heading into, her mid 50s. So it's becoming more scary, right? And what that means is that the moment she hears, about an ailment, she is scared for her life. So you can evoke fear from that. She can't really relate to NSAS. She could relate to post-war trauma and all of that. So are they generally trusting of my sector or industry? Why or why not? Now, they are not very trusting of digital businesses. They trust referrals and word of mouth more than they trust, whatever you people think you're doing on social media. She will not use complex technology. Okay, if you're trying to sell Tenny something that will stress her life, she's going to ignore you. Tenny would rather have a physical conversation, and this goes to my B2B guys. For Tenny, she would rather have a physical meeting in her office about a product that you want her to integrate into her system. She does not want to hear that the CEO of the business, the moment she mentions your name, she's hearing that you're half naked on social media. God forbid such a thing. Okay? She does not like that type of thing with young children of nowadays. So if you're a B2C person, these are things that you should care about. These are things that you should be wary about if you're targeting somebody like Tenny. Okay? Because this could completely tick her off. Now, for who, the key influencers that she trusts are, you would be, if Tenny was Igbo, and I thought about this, I just said to write Agnes Wam. If you're Igbo here, you know of the teeth whitening toothpaste. I promise you, executives in government houses are using Agnes Wama in the East. Yes, because it's been there literally all their lives. So they trust their gynecologists, and these gynecologists who have like these closed Facebook groups where they talk about arthritis, they talk about fibroids, they talk about high blood pressure, and they like their doctors traditional. They don't like the very young doctors. You people rush them too much. You're stressing their life. You are talking too much English. You're not patient enough to hear all the stories that she came with. You're not asking her about her children and her grandchildren. She would rather the older ones. For example, the guy who owns like Save a Life Hospital. Yeah, those type of people are the people that Tenny would trust for influencing. Okay, so why do they trust these voices? Because these people have proven over the years to be reliable. They've proven to be relatable. They are probably slightly younger or their age mates, and they would rather them than anyone else. Okay, so what evokes strong emotional responses? Nostalgia. Again, they are becoming the oldies, and a lot of people cannot relate to their realities as of when they were younger. So nostalgia, disrespect would negatively tick them off. Okay, you need to be able to, oh, good morning, ma. Oh, good afternoon, ma. She does not joke with that. She does not want you to call her, good morning, hi, Tenny, good morning, Tenny. No, she doesn't want that. Okay, so what gives them a sense of deja vu, in terms of like, we're now looking for something specific, okay, that could give this nostalgic feeling. And honestly, this is where your research comes in. Okay, so go and look for the things that they like. The things I can remember are the things that happened in my own time, not in Tenny's time, please. But yeah, trying to get those slogans, trying to get those smells, those visuals would help you create relatable content for her. So first words or mental images that come to mind when you think of Tenny and her people. They're advanced, they're experienced, they're conservative, they're very mature. They don't like a lot of noise. Okay, they like to take their time. They're not in a hurry. Cultural and ideological learnings. They value family over all else. Okay. For them, family is everything. Even when family betrays you, family will always be there. So when you're being very family led with your content, you're most likely going to erupt the right feelings with Tenny right? She's more family driven than community driven. She wants you to always listen to your parents, because till now she's still listening to her parents. Okay, and you're not supposed to argue so much with them. She wants you to always be diplomatic. She does not want you to be too blunt, too forward. No, 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 no. Those are not the things that she likes. She doesn't like people that are, too forward thinking. with certain things. In terms of health and wellness, of course, her health is declining. She takes a lot of multivitamins. She has her doctor on speed dial. She has another doctor in the United States that she goes to do like her MRI scans and so forth. She goes for regular checkups, probably once a year outside the country, and every other 3 months, within Lagos. What are Tenny's buying habits? Tenny is rich but not wealthy. Tenny can afford to live above the typical Nigerian, so she can afford basic luxury. Okay, she can afford to buy pieces of land. She can afford to invest, all of those types of things. What is her online shopping behavior? Is almost non-existent. Again, you have to come highly referred for her to want to buy from you, and your experience has to be seamless and short, else she drops off. Sorry. So for partying, for socializing, Tenny does, private mixers, private corporate mixers. She goes out with friends. She goes for her friends' children's weddings. She goes for naming ceremonies. Sorry about that. She only attends, high level Owambes and high level. You can see her everywhere. Okay, so she's not outside for the wrong reasons. For politics and governance, she's great at office politics. She's not become a CTO by just taking the back seat. So she's an assertive woman. Okay, she knows when to assert her position. She has proven that she's deserving of whatever she has right now. She understands the regulatory landscape. Okay, whatever CBN is saying, whatever macroeconomics of Nigeria is saying, Tenny is your girl, because she understands it like her fingers. Okay, so gender norms and rules. Tenny wears the crown of perseverance. Okay, Tenny wants to be told, oh mommy, you have done such a great job, you are such a strong woman. Tenny absolutely loves these types of conversations. Okay, Tenny is a great cook, and she cannot let Daddy Wa enter the kitchen. Okay, so yeah, once in a while, even with a cook, especially when Daddy Wa is around, she wants to go and cook for her husband. Okay, now she cooks periodically, again because of her knees, and she can afford to cook, but she still does. She probably has an in-house cook. Again, that still does not stop her from going to show that she still got it, going to show that she still cooks better than the cook. Okay, so financial responsibility or spending philosophy. Mind you, Tenny is about to retire. What it means is that she now takes less risks. If you're selling Bitcoin to her, you are wasting your time. She cannot afford to risk it at this time of her life. She spends money on herself because her kids are now grown and they're done with school. So she can afford to buy gold. She can afford to even buy, 1 or 2 diamond, jewelry and all of that, Now, for additional marketing insights, this is where you would see Tenny. You just basically try to understand Tenny now. You hone things down. So you see that you've understood Tenny to the most granular level, and here you are taking from everything you've learned all through filling out this user persona template, and you're filling it out here. So like her Facebook groups, right? Her WhatsApp school groups, those YouTube banners that you could put, they could work at certain times. Okay, you have the church bulletins that if you're targeting somebody like Tenny, you most likely get her, because she still buys bulletins every single weekend. Okay, her hospital receptions, but not your typical hospitals that have people around these ages is where you could get Tenny a flyer, because probably once every 3 months she goes there to go visit her doctor. She's now a regular visitor at the hospital. For her preferred content types, she does not want things that are too fast. Her attention span is not 3 seconds. She likes well spelled English. She likes it prim and proper. She's very corporate. She's very elegant. Okay, you need to come and you need to come correct. Okay, this person is not your typical mama in the village. No, now you need to make her feel like she knows what's up. Okay, so no pidgin English for her, and if you must, it must be in the context of trying to tie to nostalgia, to something that must have happened when she was growing. But for now, keep it professional, keep it legit for her. Okay, you either do that or you just do pure Yoruba for her. She would rather that, because she identifies a lot with family, okay, with her tribe, all of that. She would relate to content shot by someone who is 45 and above, who has a bit of gray hair, an actor who, a typical RMD, right, is who Tenny would relate to because of his age, a typical Moabudu, right? For preferred tone of voice, she likes it formal for things like investment, because again, her risk appetite is not so high. If you do informal, you are a scammer. Okay. She likes it nostalgic. When you want to go informal, then go nostalgic. Remind her of certain things that must have happened before or could happen in the future for her, for things like beds, things like home appliances, all of those types of things. She wants it informal. She wants to feel the emotion that is attached to these things. But see, if it's B2B, my darling, speak the most prim and proper English you can think about. So she's witty, but you have to be witty on her own level. The things that would make a Gen Z laugh would don't make her laugh. Okay, so if you are repurposing an advert from the 90s or from the 80s, okay, that that a lot of them found funny at that time, it would get a typical Tenny. Like the first set of ads that came out for Peak Milk, okay, she could relate to that. She would smile a lot, with that. Okay, so a typical buyer journey for Tenny is awareness. Now, the awareness is through word of mouth. It is through very big billboards. Okay. It is through church bulletins. Okay, that is what Tenny wants for awareness. For consideration, she's going to ask everybody, are you sure he's not a scam? Are you sure they are not scam? Okay, so the consideration takes her a lot of time, and she really has to be convinced. It really has to be someone close to her who is referring you for her to even want to think, especially in the informal scenario. And she needs to see testimonials from her mates. So like her school group chats, the Facebook groups, right? She wants to hear from a lot of people there who have used your product. She wants to know if you treated her well, because again, she cannot afford to buy stress with her hard-earned money. Okay, so objection triggers and how to overcome them. Tenny, you people and your digital, that's how you people are scamming everybody. Tenny wants to use digital as a CTO, as a 9-to-5 a big woman, not on the level of trying to buy jewelry or a dress or something. She doesn't want too much digital stimulations, too many colors, because she probably wears glasses now. Any visual that is remotely indecent, God forbid, bad thing. She's allergic to controversy. So that you're a controversial young person. Tenny is not your target audience. Do not go to her. If you're going to Tenny, hide your tattoos. Okay? Look as prim and proper as possible. For moments of peak influence, I would say nighttime, because she's most relaxed at this time. So between 7 to 10 p.m. when she's kicked off her shoes and she's having a good laugh on those group chats, right? And she's speaking to her kids and all of that. Weekends at the church, because she takes religion very seriously. What she sees in the bulletin or the announce in church, she's going to take it, at face value. All of those old school group chats, whatever they post there, Tenny assumes that whoever is posting must have done their due diligence, So for radio, all of those jingles with the types of sounds that they like, Fuji music, trying to use it to push a B2C brand would get Tenny's attention in the morning. Okay, so for content offer, the types that they respond to, testimonials and word of mouth, really, what would make them share your product with others? Great experience. Even more than quality, I would say first, great user experience. Tenny, as much as she has money, also expects that her age gives her certain privileges. So she wants discount, but if it's in excess, she will not trust you, because why are you dashing me so much? Nothing in this life comes easy, and life has taught her that. Okay, so that is it about Tenny, and you can repurpose this for anybody, for any age. Okay, and you're looking at this and you know exactly the type of content to create for Tenny. You know what time to post, you know how to reach her, you know how to reach the people around her, you know the people to partner with, you know the communities to look at, you know the quality of content that you should push, you know how you should brand yourself as an entrepreneur, and that is how you sell. And it's a wrap. That's it, guys. Grab your copy of my user persona template by simply clicking on the link in the description and pinned comment. Fill it out and watch your marketing, your sales, and your product decisions literally transform and go from a 0 to 100. If you found these tips useful, hit the like, subscribe, and share this video with your 9 to 5 besties. Also, don't forget to ring that bell for more pro guides. The Tochi of Tochys POV, signing out.